All right, you want to get started?
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you first for taking the time to come on today and talk with us about this. We are muting everybody now so that there's not going to be any background noise, but we'll open it up again at the end for any questions and conversation that we want to have. And it sounds like I'm getting a little feedback. It sounds like you can hear us and it's nice and clear. So thank you for that. Feel free, even though we're going to take questions at the end, to type them in as we go along, and we'll refer to them at the end so that you don't have to try and remember. What you see on your screen right now is a picture of our team. It's changed slightly since this picture, but not much, so it just kind of lets you see who we are. And again, for those of you who have never met us, I'm Shannon. And
I'm Harriet.
And so we've worked with a lot of you for years, but have never actually met in person. So now you get to put a face with the name. We have been doing this since 2007, and we specialize in working with chiropractic and physical therapy clinics in order to help them with their billing, their follow-up, and some general business consulting. And we're getting a lot of feedback and hearing a lot of concern, obviously, about what's going on right now. The COVID-19 pandemic is something new that we've never really seen, and it's a good time for us to come together and talk, not only as people within the same community, but as business owners, because that's a big part of what people are really concerned about right now is the business aspect of cash flow, money, team members, running my business. So we're going to do a lot of focusing on that today.
Okay. So let's start and talk about that we need to prepare for the economic side of this crisis, not the viral side. I mean, you all know how to take care of the COVID-19 as far as cleaning and all that kind of thing. So that's really, like Shannon touched on, not what we're going to talk about. Let's start by talking about economic cycles. So your economy runs on cycles, and they cycle through about every 7 to 10 years. And so we're just coming off of a massive boom with what we would call essentially the Trump effect, right? So now what's happening because of this virus is that we're it kicked us into a basically ending of summer cycle. So how cycles kind of work in the economy is you kind of have your summers, your falls, your winters, your springs. And like I said, they come around about every 7 to 10 years. So what we need to understand is economically right now, we're heading into fall. And what happens in the fall is in life, in the fall, you start cutting back your trees, right? So that's some of the things we're going to talk about in this webinar is what does an economic fall look like and what do we need to be doing to prepare for that? So let's talk a little bit about economy for just a minute, and then we'll move into more business owner kind of things. But as far as economically goes, in China, obviously we get a lot of our supplies from China. So there's that supply chain breakdown right now is occurring. It's gonna start getting worse, and then it's gonna start improving, right? As China starts to get better and other global markets start to improve. How long do we think that this supply chain issue is gonna last? If you look at what the experts are saying, they say anywhere from 60 to 90 days yet. So what does that mean for us? That just means a slower economy and our turn into fall, right? Fall is going to turn into winter economically at some point within that 30 to 90 days. And then we're going to hit spring, of course, at around the 90-day mark, if they're accurate in that. The thing is the government is going to have to dump a lot of money into the economy one way or another. How yet? We don't know, but there's talk of it. And so with that dumping of the money are going to come different things. And we'll talk about those in the webinar as well. Some SBA loans, some opportunities there, some banking things. But just know and be confident that we really think this cycle is going to improve in the next 90 days or so. But in the meantime, that means you have to prepare, because 90 days is a long time, and we can be wrong as well. But we're pretty, the experts are pretty confident in that this will improve due to the election year. They're not going to let it, Trump's not going to let it become the ending of his presidency. So they're going to fund it somehow or another. We're all going to pull out of it. It's just a matter of surviving until then.
Exactly. And some of the things you guys should be looking at, as well as us as business owners, is what can you be doing now in terms of finances. So we're going to talk about extending your credit. It's kind of funny, the Bob Hope quote, but it's true. Banks want to give you money the most when you absolutely don't need it. So now is really the time when you should be researching for yourself as a business and for yourself personally on what you can do financially while the banks are still lending, while the credit cards lines are still open. We were on the phone with our bank, both business and personally, finding out what are the interest rates, what can we consolidate, what can we roll over into a fixed rate for, what can we extend. If you don't have a line of credit, can you get one? If you do have a line of credit but don't have credit available on it, can you roll that over into a fixed loan and then free up your line of credit? Like Harriet touched on, we're just getting a lot of different information coming out about the federal SBA loans, and they're kind of releasing that by state, and some states have a plan and some states are still putting a plan in place. When I last talked to our banker yesterday morning, they had initially heard that the banks won't be a part of the process, and then they had been told that the banks might actually be writing the loans. So it's really still changing and developing on a day-to-day basis. So it's important that you reach out to the people that you have contacts with at your bank, at your mortgage company, whoever that is that you've worked with in the past, or that you develop a new relationship with somebody now. I was really surprised because in talking to my banker yesterday, I asked him, I said, oh my gosh, you guys must be so busy. Everybody must be calling you like we are, trying to get ahead of this. And he's like, nope, we just cut our hours. He's like, people aren't calling yet because they're waiting to see what happens. And that is not what we want to do. That's exactly what we don't want to do, is wait and see what happens, because if what happens goes in a negative direction, then it's going to be potentially too late to do some of these things, especially depending on the situation you're in right now. So it's really important that you're looking into this now and figuring out what's best for you and trying to do some follow-up on that. And we're going to send out some information after this to you guys in an email that gives you some links to the federal sites, the SBA sites, some of the unemployment sites, some of the different areas you can be looking into to find out what are your options financially and who can you be contacting and what can you be following, so that you guys have those as references. Because we're based in Minnesota, we'll also have some state stuff in there. And then for those of you not in Minnesota, we'll try and give you a little direction on where you should be looking in your state. And here's the thing, at the end of the day, if you are magically the person who is not affected by this in any negative way, then great, that's super. But then you're still leaner, faster, stronger, better. So you have absolutely nothing to lose by making sure you get this financial stuff as in order and as prepared as possible.
So let's talk about working from home. So it seems to be the buzzword out there right now, getting their employees home and still functioning and working from home. I'm not so sure what that looks like for all of you, but let me talk to you about a little bit about the logistics of that. At MoneyTree, we already have our workforce and have for a number of years working from home. So we have been using technology, for our advantage. And so we thought we'd touch on that a little bit for you guys. I'd say Zoom is probably the easiest formatting of everything to use. It's all a la carte on Zoom.com. You can get a free Zoom account, and it pretty much does everything you would need it to do to have Zoom interactions, video chat, that kind of thing. And it's really, really extremely user-friendly. So I recommend getting a Zoom account. And then as far as technology in your office, you're gonna run across an issue right now unless you know somebody privately who can do your IT work. But from all the other businesses we know, the IT industry is just swamped right now trying to get people home and getting phones set up and all that kind of thing. So you're gonna need to learn to use some of these resources on your own. And that's why I'd say Zoom is the easiest. It's super user friendly. The next bet would be, do you have a neighbor who's home from college? Have them come over and teach you how to use some of these new apps and technology. So just logistically, you're gonna need to get some of that technology in place because we don't know. Right now, you're not forced to be closed as a chiropractor, but who knows what's gonna happen. In addition to that, my thought leans towards, is there a way in this situation to change your business hours to maybe work Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at the clinic, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays typically in the past have been people's paperwork day or catch-up day. Maybe don't come in because maybe you don't need your staff to come in on that day. So I think you can use technology to your advantage. You just need to plan some of those logistical things. So not only do you need to plan how to use the technology, if you have employees that you're sending home, and this lends towards office staff, billing staff, because I know we have some participants on here today that don't use our services. So if you're going to send people home to work, you have to have an accountability and monitoring system for them. It's very, very easy, and we know because it happened to our staff when we first sent them home, for staff to get distracted by children, by laundry, and some other things. So I would say write down maybe 3 key areas that you're going to monitor of that employee who's gone home to work, and make sure that their work is getting done. And then, we talk about, can I work from home as the doctor? Well, I believe that you can, and not that you would necessarily need to or want to, but you could, and you need to start thinking about some of those communications that you can use with your customers as well. So you're gonna start wanting to learn how to work from home, because I think going forward and farther into this webinar, we're gonna touch on some ideas we have for you still having the means to take care of your patients virtually.
Yep, exactly. And as part of this process, it's going to be imperative, and I mean that, imperative that you are communicating with your team, with your customers, with your networks, with your local community. They always talk about, in the absence of information, people will make up their own, and it is so true. Right now, what people know about COVID-19 is basically more or less what they're seeing on TV more than anything. What they know about what's happening to businesses are more or less what they're seeing or hearing on TV. So you need to be communicating first and foremost with your team. You guys, we had a big team meeting Monday, and we sat with our team and talked about, here's what this looks like for Money Tree. Here's what we're working on right now. Here's what we have in place. Here's our immediate plan of action. Here's how often we're reviewing that plan, because this is evolving and changing daily. Here's how we're going to communicate with you guys. We really tried to lay it all out there and be real, but to also be positive. We want the people here to know that we have a plan. We're not waiting to see what happens. They have a job, but we have, that sort of thing, what's expected. Same thing in terms of what we're doing here in the office to try and make sure that we keep them safe, because this is not only affecting people's health, more so right now, at least in most areas, more so than affecting someone's health, this is affecting your mindset. People have, their ideas are changing, their perceptions changing. A lot of people are operating out of fear. So even in chiropractic, when we tend to have some different perceptions on some of this stuff from our angle, we have to understand that not everybody is on the same page that we're on. So it's really important that you're communicating to your team and to your clients what it is that you're doing to create a safe environment for them. And in doing that, remember that 80% of all people are visual. So don't just tell them when they come in, let them see the Pine Sol bottles or the cleaning stuff, have it sitting out in stations, have the hand signers sitting out, have signs on the door that reminds them, please wash your hands when you come in and wash your hands. You know, we're washing hands between every visit. We're doing this, we're doing that. Make it visual for them. So not only are they hearing it from you, but that they're seeing it from you. And we've seen some great emails come out from different clinics and clients and non-clients to their patient database talking about, here's what this means for us. And then what I loved about that is they sent something out. What I'm concerned about is they sent one thing out, one big long email. And this is your opportunity to, like I said, you should be communicating daily, and you should be breaking down some simple things in terms of letting them know, hey, today let's touch on just this aspect of it. Or today let's talk about just why you should still be getting adjusted. And have you even told them that you're still open? So that's a huge thing. I saw that come in an email yesterday. I'm like, that's brilliant. The first thing it said across the top in big bold letters is, yes, we are open. And then it went into how you can safely continue your care and why you should be different. You guys as healthcare providers know more than most people. So make sure you're communicating things to them that they're not necessarily hearing everywhere else, as far as supplements and daily exercise and rest and how to get better rest. You guys can be the leader in educating people in this sort of situation and communicating that to your team and to your customer base. So think about how you're communicating, what you're communicating, how often you're communicating.
And don't forget about social media.
Right, and don't forget to be utilizing, again, back to the technology and the social media. This is we work with a gal who has nothing to do with chiropractic. She does kids parties, and she has started a thing now online. She usually goes into preschools and does a whole program. So now she's gone virtual for it. So if you have themes or things you do in your office, you focus on moms and kids, or you specialize in sports, take that virtual and start educating your people. You can build a whole new network by doing workouts virtually and live, by doing educations, by talking about different things. So now's the time when we have to broaden our perspective, our horizons, do different than what we've always done, and challenge ourselves to kind of take it to that next level. But in doing that, like I said, it's super important that you're communicating it through as many venues as possible. Social media, text. A lot of you have softwares that do automatic texts for appointment reminders. Potentially you can utilize that to send texts to educate people and communicate.
Yeah, so just don't forget to use your virtual. Don't just stop doing things. Turn them virtual. I know some of you have Tuesday evening education classes. Still have those classes, still market, still get people signed up for those. Just do all of that virtually.
It comes in weird.
Whoop, 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 one too many. Okay, so, in every massive change, there's a massive opportunity. So let's get into brainstorming a little bit about what you can do to be positive and, create opportunities for your business. So you need to look at this from a perspective of, where's the opportunity for me? My first thought for all of you goes into, can I do a therapy program that could be virtual, where I have Zoom meetings with my clients, they pay cash, and I know I'm a billing company, but it's the best thing. If you can get them to pay cash for virtual exercise training, I really think that would be a great asset for most of your clients. Can you do virtual exercise training and bill it to insurance? That's what we're scrambling around here to figure out right now. So we're working on that end of it. You need to work on, what kind of therapies, what kind of programs can I charge for that I can charge cash and market to my clients right now. Because I know people are nervous to come into the clinics. So let's, that's kind of goes to the sentence here we have is, how can I sell toilet paper? Can you sell vitamins? Can you sell vitamin D? Can you create a virtual program? Can you advertise your vitamins? Can you put it out there to your patients that you'll deliver the vitamins? You'll deliver the vitamins, you'll ship them their vitamins. We have a program that we created for one of our functional medicine clinics that actually my son developed, that calculates their vitamins for their front desk and with the dosage on the bottle, when is that vitamin going to run out for Mrs. Smith? So when do I need to put the tickler into my system to call Mrs. Smith and tell her her vitamins have run out? So you got to get on board with some sort of digital way to ship people their vitamins, track their vitamins, tell them their vitamins are out, you're almost running out, that kind of thing. But it goes even a little bit farther into that. In the end, this is gonna have an economic impact, not so much of a medical impact on our world, right? People are gonna get better from this. The question is, how strong are we gonna be economically after this? And I think now is your opportunity to create a little bit of a different chiropractic clinic, to push yourself into, farther into 2020 and really stretch those limits on all those different virtual things that you can start using in your clinic.
Right, and mindset wise, like it says, panic and worry never help. And it's important right now that we as leaders, that we be real and we be positive. We need to be prepared. We need to take precaution, but we want to be the person in the room who helps lead with the solutions, helps create the brainstorming and the ideas, helps let our team know and our customer base know that we have a plan, that we're here, that we're steady, that we can be calm, that we will all get through this. Because people are dealing with an unknown situation. And so that's a big part of the fear factor. Everybody is scared of the unknown to some degree. So we have an opportunity to step up as leaders and to help, put people at ease and to help create something that can bring about a positive change or bring about an opportunity within this situation.
Yeah, so kind of touched on it on the last slide, but you're gonna have to lead the change. It's gonna be changing people's mindset. Even if we're better in 90 days from now, you're still gonna have people who are worried. It is what it is. And if people change the way they do business with you over the next 30 to 120 days, it's gonna create a habit. So what's gonna happen is they're gonna be in a habit potentially of not going to the chiropractor anymore, or not getting therapies because they don't wanna stay any longer than they have to at your clinic. So if you can mitigate that situation with creativity, some different opportunities for them, that's what you're gonna wanna do. And as quickly as possible before it becomes a habit for them to have a lifestyle change. And then as far as your products, your services, your pricing, your staffing, your delivery methods, we kind of touched on all of those. I want to remind you guys too that for those of you, I know there's some of you out there on attending this webinar right now that do this. If you're going into some of the larger companies in your community and having those work comp talks and talking about work safety and that kind of thing, get those virtual. There is absolutely no reason you can't have a virtual webinar on how they can be safer as employees, and then as well as incorporating the COVID-19 into that. Sure, you're used to training them on how to lift something heavy and how to lift that properly. Let's reach out to those big companies and ask them if you can do a virtual webinar on safety for COVID-19. And then that might get you in the door for future webinars on actual, maybe, being safer in the workplace. And then in addition, usually you can customize that contract with the company. So obviously that's not affected by insurance billing. So you can customize the virtual meeting, you can customize the virtual one-on-one with their employees. And then if you're suggesting that they need a lumbar support, now you just mail them the lumbar support instead of them picking it up. So that's a whole nother route that you guys could potentially look at. And I don't want to get too involved in, a bunch of these ideas, because I'm sure you guys have them. It's just, we need you and want you to start coming up with a plan for this, so that even if we're better in 30 days from now, well, you just are even better. You've created a leaner, better business, and it'll still be leaner and better, whether it be 60 days from now or 120 days from now.
Right, and the thing you have to remember too is that this is a catalyst. So business is not going to be the same after this, and this is why it's so important that you lead and change. Because once businesses, like us as a company a few years ago, when we were able to start implementing working from home and get that in place, once you get some of those things in place, people don't want to go back. The business world and the way people do things evolves. So if other companies around you, especially in your field, do start to take the lead on this, and they offer all these virtual things and things that save them time and are more convenient and kind of match up to today's technology, you don't want to be the one not doing that in the end, because chances are those things that you put in place now that are working, people are going to want to stay with that. They're going to want to be like, well, why do I need to come in? Why can't we do it on the phone like we did before this happened? Or can I always do this exercise program virtually? It would be so much easier to do it at home in my sweats than it is right after work in my work clothes when I come in. So keep in mind that this doesn't just affect how you're doing business now, but potentially affects what business is going to look like even after this. You don't want to wait. You want to take, like Harriet said, action now. And remember too, that part of the reason to come together in a forum like this is because even though we all know our own business is best, we do to some degree have tunnel vision, because you know what you know in your business and you kind of see things from a certain angle, and it's hard to break out of that. So it's really important that right now we're coming together as a community so we can brainstorm, that you're brainstorming with your teams, with your network groups, even if they're not in the same business as you. You guys can bounce ideas off each other. That's going to help all of us think of more ways to better serve our clients and to better take care of our business while we're working through the situation.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about cutbacks. Okay. It's kind of a scary word, but you need to start cutting back. If you are going to upgrade something, stop upgrading it. Now is not the time. Cash is king. You need to hold on to your cash during this time, okay? So take an inventory of what you're spending right now, how often you're taking your team out to lunch, those kinds of things. Renegotiate your credit cards. I had a friend who's a chiropractor tell me that he was able to save them $2,500 a month in credit card processing fees, simply by switching to a different credit card processor. So start looking at some of those cutbacks. But where you don't want to cut back is in your marketing. You need to keep marketing. Your people are willing to still see a chiropractor. They want your service. They just need you to tell them how to get it. What do I need to do? Where do I need to be? And you need to continue your marketing. Does that mean your marketing looks the same as it did 2 weeks ago? For sure not. Your marketing now has things like different virtual options. It also has information on how you sanitize in your clinic, all those things. And I know, because, you know, we all know that sanitization isn't necessarily going to help this situation fully, but it's perception. Remember that the public is being fed information from the media. Their perception or their idea is that if you aren't cleaning, they're going to get sick, they're going to catch it, that kind of thing. So to some degree, you're going to have to market some of that into your campaigns now.
And remember, in terms of marketing, I mean, anybody who's been in practice or in business of any sort knows that you can lose 50 patient visits in a week just like that with something like this, or a snowstorm or anything like that. But those people don't automatically show back up when it's over. So the reality is, as people are canceling appointments now, given the situation, they're not just going to all call back in as soon as CNN tells them that there's no more fear. So you want to keep that in mind in terms of marketing, because you're going to want to have something that you already have some momentum on, that you're already creating some new connections, because you want to look beyond just what can I do at this exact moment, but how can I prepare to be ready for when we move into that cycle of spring and the uptick to summer again. And you have really unique opportunities right now that you don't necessarily have. I mean, I know here in Minnesota, they've shut down schools till the 27th of March, and they're trying vigorously to get an e-learning platform into place, because it sounds like the hope is to not go back to school this year, but to do it all virtually. Well, it might be hard depending on the area you're in to get into the public school system, maybe not, but we have a lot of charter schools, private schools, things like that. Now's your time to bring some curriculum to it, some sort of something you can go live and do virtually to help the schools out. And that's what you do it in the format of is helping them, you know, with whatever, breathing techniques to stay calm and manage anxiety when the world's a scary place, exercise stuff, food stuff, nutrition stuff. I mean, you can plug yourself into so many different school subjects, or churches are looking to try and do things virtually right now because they're trying to stay connected to their people. I mean, a lot of different venues are trying to figure out ways to stay connected, and you guys can be a part of that and create a whole new network for yourself, really establish yourself as a leader in your community and build on your marketing that way, so that you're ready for when everybody's doors open again to build and build quickly.
Right. So let's get into kind of the topic that nobody wants to talk about, which is, as business owners, we may have to make cuts. Cuts to our staff, cuts to their, you know, pay, cuts to everything. So let's just have a little bit of an open discussion about that. How do I know when I need to lay off an employee? Well, I think you know. If you have a feeling you need to lay somebody off, you just need to do it now. Don't wait till we're halfway into this thing, because it's gonna, remember, what you're trying to do is keep a business alive, and you can't sacrifice one person, you know, for the greater good of the, you know, for the greater good, right? So you've got to let that person go if you're not going to be able to pay them. In the state of Minnesota, and we say Minnesota because that's the state we're from, so we've had to research the employment laws and that kind of thing. So remember, this only applies to the state of Minnesota. I can't speak to the other states, but right now, Minnesota, if you lay off an employee, there used to be like a 2-week delay on them being paid unemployment. They've waived that. We will, like Shannon talked about earlier, we'll be sending you the link on the website. If you do lay somebody off, direct them to the website. There's a side for employees and a side of the website for us as employers. And then as far as some things that you could do to not lay somebody off, I would brainstorm, hey, if I cut 3 of my people down to 32 or 33 hours a week, does that saves me 21 hours if everybody's down a little bit? And I think this is when communicating and talking to your team comes into effect, right? You need to have a meeting and have a realistic talk about, hey, we had to change our business hours. We're either extending our hours and having maybe 15-minute appointments to spread people out due to the virus. So we don't have so many people in our waiting room. So now you guys are only working Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Maybe you're working a little longer hours, but either way, you're still not going to be able to get in your full hours because we just don't have the customers coming in the door. It's a reality, and I wouldn't wait. If you can see the writing on the wall, don't wait. It's not good for anyone. And then the other thing is talk to your employee, have a conversation one-on-one, and maybe they are fine with only working 22 hours right now, or, you don't know. You're under the assumption that they're going to freak out and be totally, completely scared, but for all you know, they're happy to be able to work from home.
Or they have kids at home now, and they'd be happy to, give up some hours temporarily to help adjust for that situation. But I agree. Don't assume somebody's situation, and don't assume theirs is the same as yours. And the more transparent you can be, the better it is for everybody. In some cases, somebody may prefer to be laid off versus having their hours cut. Now with unemployment, depending on what's going on in your state, that may be a big benefit, a better benefit to both of you. Obviously, that's not the first thing any of us want to do as business owners, but we have to be realistic about the situation we're in. Think outside of the box and be creative. If laying people off isn't an issue for you, but everybody has extra time on their hands, adjust what people are doing. Now's a really important time to be, if you have in-house billing. For those of you who are Money Tree clients, we already sent out an email telling you we're switching things up. This time calls for some change. We need to adapt and pivot. The biggest way we can help you right now is by focusing on your agings, doing them as quickly and as often and as much as we can to keep your cash flow as stable as possible as your patient visits potentially start to decline. The same thing is true for an internal billing office. If you have extra time on your hands, people should be focusing on calling on any money that's outstanding, paying, printing those reports, following up on that stuff. So there are other things you could be focusing on. And again, on marketing, selling, that sort of thing. You can have people focusing on that as well, which I guess leads us right into marketing and selling. To the best of your ability, use this as an opportunity, especially when it comes to marketing and selling. Again, you should be going live on Facebook. You should be doing webinars if you can. You should be using your social media platforms. You should be emailing. You should be potentially making phone calls. We have people who are in areas that are like the retirement states that are saturated with seniors who aren't necessarily on Insta or following Facebook Live. Call her. Mrs. Smith, this is Sarah from so-and-so chiropractic. Say, we're just reaching out to our patients because we want to make sure you're okay. How are you? That goes a long way in just marketing from a connection standpoint. Let your people know you're here, that you care, that you're available, that you're thinking of them, even if it doesn't necessarily equate to a visit this exact moment. I used to work for a chiropractor who called every patient after their first adjustment. And it went miles in what they thought of him. They're like, oh my gosh, you took time to call me. And he's like, well, you got your first adjustment ever today. We need to talk about what you could be feeling both good and bad. And, And that was a big, big thing. So you may have to take the time to pick up the phone. But just make sure you're connecting with your people and you're bringing them value.
Yeah, sorry, technical difficulty here. Okay, so, repeat business. So I don't know if I need to tell you this. I feel like you probably already know this, but profit comes from keeping your current patients. It doesn't cost you as much to keep a current patient as it does to get a new patient. So you, like Shannon touched on, you have to find ways to keep your current patients. And maybe now's the time, if you have a stockpile of pillows or a stockpile of ice packs, that you put them on sale and you start sending out emails and flyers and things that are for sale. All these little things in the end add up. You're making cutbacks, you're selling more product, you're getting rid of your inventory. All those things, you're calling on your aging reports, you're calling on claims. You've got to start doing some of those things that you have been putting off, essentially.
It's the compound effect.
Okay. I'll let you
I mean,
touch
and
on
really,
this.
we're on our bonus steps here. We're kind of getting ready to wrap it up, but it really comes down to common sense and compassion. These are different times. For some people, they're very scary times. We want to over deliver. We want to under promise, go above and beyond. Again, perception is a big thing right now. And just talking to an office yesterday, we learned that their entire staff quit. The doctor's entire staff quit. And it was because their perception was that he wasn't handling the situation well or taking it seriously, whatever it was but there was no communication, and their perception was it wasn't being handled well, and they walked. So, and I think that really comes down to, again, had there been some communication, some common sense, some compassion, some looking at this from other people's perspectives, that could have all been avoided. So, like it was said in the beginning, this is all about more than health right now. It's more about ideas and mindset. And so keep that in mind, that you just want to be putting your people first. You want to calm down. You want to slow down. You want to remind people to take a deep breath. You don't want to buy cases of toilet paper. It's really not necessary, in case you're wondering. And things like that to help bring everyone together. And so we recommend really that you get together with your team, make a 90-day plan, make them a part of it, be transparent, and let them know that you need them, that everybody has to be all in. You are the leader, you are the business owner, but you are not the only person. You are not a team of one. So make them a part of it. Be proactive, get prepared, take your top 5 ideas, start to take action on them, brainstorm with other people in your community, with other businesses. Make sure you're following up and assigning tasks and timelines, and that you're not just having these conversations, but that you're actually taking action on this stuff. The key to all this is to really understand what your situation is, where you're at as a business, what your patients' numbers are. You should know your stats. You should kind of be able to see the curves of what's happening, so that you can make the best decisions for you and your team, and recognizing where you need to adapt and change, and doing that quickly, not waiting to see what happens and what if. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just
to
to touch on the point of designate the team member who can keep everyone on task. I really think that's really important, because you're gonna go, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna make this 90-day plan, and then it's gonna get put on your desk, or it's gonna get stored away, on your computer. And unless somebody is in charge of the 90-day plan, it's gonna go wrong. And what I mean by in charge of that is when you make a 90-day plan, and in your 90-day plan you have, these 5 topics potentially. Maybe you plan out your finances, you plan out your marketing, you plan out your staffing schedule. That plan needs to be broken down week by week. So it's a 90-day plan, and every week you're doing one little step to get you through that 90-day plan. So that whoever on your team can make sure every Monday they look at what are our steps this week that we put down in our 90-day plan. You need to give that to somebody who's capable of doing that, because it's one thing to make the plan, and it's another thing to follow up on it.
Yep, exactly. And in follow-up to this today, just a reminder, we're going to be sending out an email with some of the links to some of those things we talked about with the SBA loans, the different federal websites, CDC stuff, places where you can be going to get accurate information and potentially financial assistance if needed, recommendations on places to go within your state. And then Money Tree clients specifically will be communicating with you guys on what we're doing here. And if you have any questions specific to working with us, feel free to email us, call us, or contact us separately, because this is going to be the same thing, a pivot and change thing, and we're handling it client by client. We don't feel there's any one right answer for every single clinic, so we want to work with you one-on-one for the best answer for you and your team. That's really all we had to share today, so we're going to open it up for questions in case anybody has any before we get going, and we should be done here by 2. thank you again for taking the time to pop in with us and talk about this. This will get linked up to our YouTube channel, so if you want to rewatch it or you want to share it with anybody, feel free to do that. We'll probably be doing another webinar in the near future as things evolve, just kind of talk about where we're at then. Does anybody have any questions or any ideas or anything they want to share? Anything you are doing that's working, or ideas or thoughts you've had?
No, I think we're good.
Oh,
wait.
oh, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us, Brenda. I know that was late notice. I'm sorry I didn't think to email you sooner. Otherwise, we just want to make sure you guys know, even if you don't have questions today, if you think of questions afterwards, we'd love to be a resource for you. Answer any questions you have, help you in any way we can, because really to get through this, we all need to be in it together. So it doesn't matter if you're a client or not, feel free to reach out. Hi, April, we miss you too. And we'll do what we can. So again, thanks for joining us today, and we will talk to you guys soon.